In this episode, I am sitting down with the one, the only Zach Anderson Pettet. Now, if you don't know who Zach is, and I seriously doubt you don't know, but he is the content director for Money 2020 USA, and we are diving into all things fintech trends and fintech happenings and content happenings. And basically, this episode is like getting the inside scoop into the brains and functionality of how fintech content junkies like Zach and I operate and think and work. So it's a little chaotic, a lot of fun, and a lot of, frankly, just topics to run through because there's a lot going on in our industry all the time. So, of course, we talk also about the big show, Money 2020. So be sure to tune in, enjoy this ride with me and Zach. And then after you listen to this episode, be sure to go to Zach's podcast, Fintech Family Hour, and listen to him interview me so you get, a full circle, full scoop on the conversation that him and I had while we jammed live in the studio. So I hope you enjoy it. This is Zach Anderson Pettet. Zach
Nicole
Anderson. Wait, how do you say your last name? Is it French?
I could act like it is. It's not. Zach Anderson Pettet.
Pettet.
Pettet. Yeah. I have French family, so that's why I'm there all the time, but I don't actually have any French blood.
Oh.
Swedish.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, cool. And well, thank you for coming into the Williamsburg studio for an episode of Humans of FinTech.
Thank you.
So excited. This is actually a pretty full circle moment. You and your podcasting actually really inspired a lot of Humans of FinTech. So I just want to let you know that to your face while you're here. When you hear that, how does that feel?
Well, we had this conversation after maybe a beverage or two at the Empire happy hour. I think, right? Wasn't it? It was. Yeah, it was all the way at the end of the show. And I might have that might have been a very emotional moment for me, I would say. It was very emotional. I'm dead inside. So there's only so much of that. But it's the idea that anybody else cares about humans and more so humans than finance in this industry. That just makes me so fucking happy.
Yeah.
That I love that. And after actually getting to know you, it makes me even happier because you have taken it in a direction that candidly as a 6 foot whatever white male I never could. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a really, really important voice and a really important thing for the industry. Mm-hmm. So I mean, the idea that I inspired even 1% of a percent of that is fucking gets me out of bed in the morning is wildly exciting. And I even if you're lying to me, I appreciate you lying to me.
Before you started recording, I was telling you I'm not very good at hiding my feelings or hiding what I really want to say. And so it was just so refreshing when I was starting Fintech Is Femme and going to start a fintech podcast. I was looking and I was listening to all of them, all the ones that we know, including yours, and I was like, oh, thank goodness there's someone here who's wanting to actually talk to these people like they're humans. I think in my career it's been a thing that has made me unique, and it's made people want. It's how I get big interviews with big guests is that they're so excited because they're going to be asked questions that no one else asks them.
Tell me about you. Yeah. Fucking groundbreaking. Whoa, take a step back, folks.
And I'm
a little
this
personal.
Innovator. They're
innovator.
They're I interviewed Kathy Wood the other day, and she's just no one's ever asked me that. They kudos to you. And now guess what? Now she remembers me. And now she and it's that long game and that relationship that you're building. And I feel is that something you were cognizant of when you or is it just, it's really your personality? Yeah.
I mean, I think I think that we always want, and maybe this is a little bit of therapy session and you can tell me how you think about it.
That's what this is, Humans of FinTech.
I love it. Session. I think that we always want our strength to be something that it isn't as humans, is my 2 cents. Mm-hmm. I was actually, I have a new sponsor for my podcast, and I was texting with my main kind of comms contact at that organization yesterday, and I was texting her and I was saying basically I think I've accepted that my podcast is not going to be the smartest one in fintech, but I hope that it's the most fun or the most engaging in some random way, or the most laughs per minute or laughs per hopefully it's the funniest or something like that. And it all stems from my desire for it to be the smartest. Like that's what I want. What I want is to be the smartest person in the room. What I want is to be the person that can ask the best question about open banking. What I want is to be like so familiar with every level of the stack that I can talk to anybody about if that's, you know, happening here or happening there. Are we talking ML? Are we talking this? Are we talking that? It's like, I wish that I had that, and I obsessively try to learn to get there. But I think I've just finally admitted to myself that my competitive advantage in life is like making people have a good time, making people comfortable, hopefully making people laugh, and not the rest of it, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I'll still ask those questions, but it's like, I don't even really want to. Is the other thing I'm finally admitting to myself. It's like, I care and I want to know, but most of that shit, like if I have the opportunity to sit down with somebody that absolutely fascinates me, most of the time I want to ask them like what they had for lunch or like, you know, how they handle their sanity.
It tells you so much about someone.
Exactly.
Are you kidding me? You don't think that someone's personal decisions in their day-to-day for what they decide to eat for lunch to how they maybe, you know, spend time with their family or whatever it is, like that doesn't shape someone's, you know, leadership. It's literally like your values and the things that you do with your time and the way you decide to spend your time and the way that you talk about and present yourself. That is a clear reflection on what, you know, the future of your fintech, of your business, of your leadership can look like. And so it is smart. I would say it is. And in fact, it's, you know, even for myself, I get like annoyed if I'm considered some sort of like woo-woo feminism brand. And
people
it's
put
like,
you in a box.
Yeah. And like, don't put me in that box because I'm talking about incredibly, you know, strategic, smart, important strategies, developments that should be implemented in every single part of a business. In fact, if it was valued just as much as, you know, all of the more technical elements, then maybe we would be in better places.
Well, of course. I mean, it's all balance,
I mean, we
right? Well, yeah. I think there's like, I think especially for like an engineer, right? I think like in fintech, we have this version of like, or like as I have this version of what a like successful fintech founder is or something like that. And I think like 5 years ago, that my version of that founder was like probably wildly unhappy and I didn't realize it. Right? It's just like this hypothetical human I've created in my head. It's a persona. It's not even a real person, but I'm just like, they work this much. They do this. They're probably fat and they, you know, like it's.
But they've raised $100 million in their first Series A. And
exactly. I think of like Reid Hoffman, actually. I think he's really interesting because I'm fascinated by his brain. He's done so much for the world, like LinkedIn, all these different things, but I don't think he could fit through most doors. And it's like, how do you, like, is he happy? Is he, also, it's really hard to look at you when we have another friend right over there. I really want this conversation to also be with you.
What's up?
But it's confusing to me. And I can't imagine, like, even, I mean, looking at Elon, right? And I mean, a lot of different fucking opinions about Elon these days, but there's no disagreeing that the man has done some things in the world. But like, that gut would be just, it would drive me crazy. Like I would give up one of my CEO roles. I'm serious. I'm like it's just.
No,
like,
I mean, I'm laughing, but it's so true. It's so true.
It's gross.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm judging, but
I mean, well, the thing is that it's look, we are all beautiful no matter our weight. We'll just put that out there. It's not that.
Exactly. That's not what I'm referring to.
Yeah, no, I know you're not. But as like someone who also is, I heavily prioritize my physical activity for a reason. You know, you ask me how can I create content like on a snap, and it's sometimes I can't. But like, but to be able to do that as many times a day as possible, I have to prioritize being, you know, my physical activity. I have to prioritize like my creative activity. I can't just. My only outlet for creativity can't just be my writing and my interviewing that I get paid a salary for. Like I have to do other things. Like I came home the other day and just decided to like learn a song on the piano. I came home and I was like, okay, you know what? I could either go.
You play piano? What? What?
I was like,
just throwing that out there.
I was like, I could either go back to my home office on my desk. Like I came home from this office that we're in the studio we're now, and I was like, I can either go back there. It's like 6:00 and work again, or I could sit at the piano and like expand my mind in another way. So I just pulled up a YouTube video of like one of my favorite songs. It's Vampire. I sent it to you the other day.
Oh, you did? I still haven't listened to it yet. Okay, I will.
Yes, and I just learned how to play a couple chords so that I could start to learn how to sing it and then like play it. And it just was a fun way. And I spent like 3 hours doing it.
Okay, here's a question. How important to you, or how important do you think it is to have different inputs? like, because we're all obsessed with this fintech world, right? Or I don't know. I just assume if you're listening to this, you're a nerd and you're obsessed with the fintech world. How important is it to have other inputs from your perspective?
Oh my gosh, it's so important. How else can you can't like actually have these greater opinions on these very, complex and interesting elements of our fintech space unless you go and live a life.
Right.
Unless you go and have
it's a crazy thought, going and living a life in this world.
You gotta explore, you gotta travel. I learned a ridiculous amount from my travels to India, from Amsterdam, to being at Money 2020 Europe. I mean, shit, I've written I've however many stories just from that event alone.
How different do you feel like you are as a person from even 3 months ago? Because you've been fucking everywhere in the last few months.
I mean, it's like, I'm like, this podcast has now turned around.
Well, this is what happens when you have podcasters on podcasts.
I know,
you end up, it's going to happen.
Just listen to this episode and then listen to Zach's episode.
And we'll find out who asked who where.
And then but I'm like, what was the question? Oh, yes.
How different do you feel like you are from 3 months ago?
Oh my gosh, a ridiculous amount. I mean, I chopped my hair off.
You did?
I did. That's all you need to know.
Okay.
I'm a changed woman.
Next question.
Liberated.
Moving on. Cut it. Check the gate. Next.
But seriously, I'm like, the traveling, I mean, you go to somewhere like India and you are faced with actual poverty.
Right.
I
mean, it's not just about financial inclusion? You mean people actually have real problems in this world? You mean it's not just...
Yeah.
It's not just
you mean it's not just about making sure the Henrys get everything that they deserve and want?
I need a piece of a classic car because that's an asset that's going to appreciate.
To own a piece of an Hermes... $30,000, however much that is. Sorry, I'm not a fashion kid, but whatever. I need to own a piece of that diamond, or else I will never build wealth for myself.
We're not dealing with first world problems at all.
There's actual problems in this world, and it does bring you back to earth a bit, and it makes you think okay, there's actually a lot we can be learning in U.S. fintech from India, from Singapore, from Indonesia, from all these other
100%.
all these places, and in those places, there are there's also a ton of people that are really building incredible companies that get no press. No press, no one interviews them, nothing. And I'm like, all right, well, I will be the first to do that and put you on the map because you're doing something incredible. We met a woman and Anton, what's her full name again? Do you remember her full name? Tina Samar, yeah. And she's the chief people.
You just have to ask for her name was Tina and you just had to call a lifeline? I'm just saying. I'm gonna give you shit on that one. I'm gonna give it. What was her full name? Tina.
No, her full name is Augustina.
Her name's Tina. Augustina.
No. Augustina, I'm so sorry if you're listening.
Her name is Augustina. Okay. This has been. Can this be a clip? Because this was fun.
Yes, it can. So Augustina Samara, right? That's why I asked.
Okay.
I knew Tina.
I get it now.
And Anton said Tina. I just accepted it. I was like, let's move on.
That's a beautiful name, though, Augustina. I'm going to look in the camera. I'm going to break the fourth wall for you.
So Augustina is the chief people and strategy officer of a fintech company called Dana. And basically, it's consumer fintech. It's meant for the people of Indonesia, right? And so she has 140 million. Anton got to know her really well. I think they talked about cooking. But Anton always gets the charmer. Anyway, she has over 140 million people on her app.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And that's half the population of Indonesia.
Yeah.
And a huge portion of it, or a percentage of it, are women. 75%. 75% of your app users are women.
Was it built and structured for women, or is that just wow?
Oh, well, never mind. It was. I'm so sorry.
Augustina, we're going to have you on here and you're going to correct everything that Nicole's fucked up.
Look, guys, I don't know everything. Yeah. Like I said, Anton really was the one that got to know her.
Well, but that's still fascinating though, right? Because I was about to talk about daylight. We won't go there because that's a whole different thing.
A whole
different thing. But if you think about Elevest is maybe a good example, right? Where Sally has done something that I think is wonderful, is really important for the world, but she don't have 140 million users on there, right? And there's a strong disconnect, I think, in the US in terms of that. And sometimes I feel like in especially in emerging markets, if you build something like that, it actually really exists to solve a problem. Mm-hmm. And it seems potentially much of the time in the US we're building to self-actualize versus we're just on such different levels of Maslow's hierarchy that it's not even the same conversation.
It's more of a, someone built this, so I should build that too. And,
right.
And oh my God, like there's a million investing apps. Like I should build one too.
Yeah.
And I can understand that for certain niches, I guess, but it's like, why are we not solving for the fundamental issues that are happening for consumers here in America as well? We think that we have a large banked population, like whatever. Oh, people investing. That's going to democratize access to wealth building, and the wealth gaps is investing. And it's like, no, people, the average American today still doesn't have, how many times do we have to say it, right? Like still doesn't have $500, $400 for an emergency.
Yeah.
People making over $100,000 live paycheck to paycheck still. Like we have a problem here, and it's like, don't like, and throwing out an investing app at someone isn't going to solve it. It can be a piece of it, but we're very interested in the bells and whistles. But
can it really? Like, this is the thing that I struggle with on it, is like, yes, it can be a piece of it, but as somebody that's been in, okay, so I feel like I've kind of been in a unique, maybe not a unique position with this, but I've been a fintech nerd for
how long?
Fuck, I don't know. 20. I wrote, not 20 years. No, I was about to say like 20. I was about to say a year. I'm trying to think of, so I did the 5-year plan in college. So I graduated in 2015. I think I wrote, and this is not like a claim, this is like, I actually find this very sad, but I basically wrote a business plan for what turned out to be Acorns when I was like a sophomore, junior in college. But I wrote it on a piece of paper and did shit with it. So it's like, good for me.
Someone else did.
Yeah, exactly. And like the idea of like a roundup investing app is like not that groundbreaking, really. So I think that was probably like 2013. So probably about 10 years, something like that. So I've been like fascinated by this world and like deep in understanding it and poor at the same time, which is like such an interesting thing, I think, because you end up like, I've been in positions where I have had, you know, all of the apps, right? And then I've like put enough into Acorns or put enough into this investing app. And then as soon as you have to like, if you have a tax bill or if you have you end up just fucking selling the asset to pay the tax bill. And then next year you have a tax bill on the asset. You just, it's like, it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. And like, you learn something along the way, I guess, but you don't really, it's not financially healthy.
Yeah.
Right? Like the only reason I was able to pay my taxes in like 2016 was because Bitcoin went on a tear.
Damn.
Like it was just random shit like that where you kind of like, and then I realized that like, I don't actually, and like I gotta whisper, but I today don't really use much fintech. Like I use NBKC and then like a few other things.
You know, it's so funny, me either.
I know, it's kind of crazy.
People are always like, what fintech apps do you use, Nicole? I gotta know. And I'm like,
and you're like, Instagram? Like
isn't X supposed to be a fintech app? Oh God, I don't know. But no, it's like my Instagram for my shopping. There's payments in there.
Right.
It's so true. And I'm like, I use one.
Yeah, like, and it's like, it's my bank.
Yeah, and it's my bank.
Yeah.
Yay. Yeah. And I mean.
But we talk about it, so, like, what is it about? Like, how are we so broken? Right? Like, why is it that we spend our entire lives obsessing over this, like, one thing?
Yeah.
But then we, like, don't do it. At least, I mean, I download the apps, I try them, but then I'm just like, I mean, whatever. Like, I just want my community bank.
Well, I think it's a behavioral element of it. So what really drew me to, what drew me to open up like an account at a neobank was because I just had my traditional bank that my parents helped me like open an account of when I was, you know, a kid, and I'm even lucky to even have that. Yeah. And you know, but I like hate that bank, and I don't believe in any of their like
Sounds like it's one of the big ones.
It's the worst one. Okay. We all know which one it is in our heads now. It's the worst one. And
I actually I feel like we all have such differing opinions that I don't know which one you're referring to. I feel like it's probably one of 5 that I can think of. Yeah. And they're probably very large and international, but I don't know which one.
Yes, it's a top. It's like in the Holy Trinity, if you will, I guess.
We can move on.
Anyways, so forget that bank. So I open up so I ended up finding SoFi through a personal finance influencer, Tori Dunlap. And, you know, her whole branding is financial feminism. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, cool. So, like, obviously I'm, you know, believe in that. And that's my vibe. And so I, like, saw that she was promoting a high yield savings account through SoFi. And so I was like, fuck it. And I'm like, ooh, and I click this and I get her, you know, commission. Yeah. I want to support her and do something for myself. That's, like, what people are thinking. And so and that's what I think. And so I went in there and I created an account. And for me, it's been The reason I like the app so much, and I will also say that I'm a brand partner. They do sponsor some of my things.
I mean, it's also
to be fair,
good company. Like,
to be fair, I was a SoFi user well before they, reached out for a brand partnership. But for me, it was the behavioral element. It was knowing what I know about behavioral finance and seeing it in action. Little things like being able to segment pieces of my savings for an emergency vault, for a travel fund, for a, and then automating all of it through my direct deposit and paycheck, and it being so simple. And like just the psychological lift, or like the lifting that off my plate. I know there's a certain amount of my paycheck every month that's going right to my emergency savings, and it's like growing before my eyes, and and a certain amount that goes to my investing and whatever. So it just like relieves so much.
Yeah.
And it's easy. Like I can check the app. It tells me everything. It's like, it's so transparent. It tells me every time I spend something, how much I have left. It sends me a little notification. And so I'm visually seeing everything going on with my money, how my money is moving, what's happening. And that's huge. Like, because the default, because we're also scared of like, we're born scared. No, we're like raised culturally like scared of money. That the default is like, I mean, how many years of your life did you spend like, I'm just not going to look. I'm not going to look.
Most. Well, I don't know. I mean, I was honestly so nervous about overdrawing my account until I was like 29, 8, 7, 20.
Late 20s?
Yesterday? No, until I was like 27, but I was always looking pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that for me, it's like if we can find apps that have this actual like psychological change in our behavior, I think that's huge. And that's what I have yet to see with an investing. Like, I don't know how like that an investing app can necessarily change like my behaviors. I mean, they can, I guess. It's like there's too much onus, I think, on the users still.
Exactly.
To
you
figure it
behave.
out. Yeah.
That's the thing about
they don't want you to behave.
Yeah, like an investment app. SoFi is a beautiful example where it's like, if you think about where you should be engaging with the app, right? It's like savings, it's day-to-day stuff, it's like decreasing your debt, it's all that sort of a thing. Like, I think one of the biggest problems we have in this fucking industry is the idea that investing should be an activity, which then means you're trading, which then means you're broke because you have no idea what you're fucking doing. And like, it's just, there's no one outside of this city actually that I have any faith in beating the market on purpose. Yeah. Like, people will beat it by accident, whatever, but just buy an index fund and shut up. Yeah. Right. So like, what's the point of Robinhood? What's the point of any of this shit? I don't know, other than like selling order flow to high frequency traders and taking advantage of their users.
The users.
Except Robinhood obviously democratized so much. It's so good for the world.
I mean,
so
you
good.
are the new Wall Street.
Right.
Wall Street.
Yeah.
Although I gotta go work with the Wall Street guys to make sure that we get paid. Right. But you are the new Wall Street.
Yeah.
Yay.
That whole like, the Robinhood, I actually shouldn't say because I've never been invited to it and I would love to go just because I'm fascinated. But they have like a yearly Robinhood like investor summit. Have you heard about this?
No.
So it's like, it's BlackRock, it's Citadel, it's like, it's basically Davos, but for like their partner sort of a thing. And like, they'll talk about open markets and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, it was in New York last year. The people that I hear about going to it, I'm just like, it's just the irony of the idea of that company being directed towards financial inclusion or something like that. When, I mean, I don't know. The CEO literally reminds me of Lex Luthor. So
when I was at Investment News, I reported on Robinhood a lot more, and I was there during the 2020 and the 2021 boom, during GameStop, the whole thing. Yeah. And I mean, they also never fulfilled, I don't know about today because I'm not like paying too much attention to them these days, but like they never fulfilled a lot of the things that they would say they would. Even after that, the big drama was really also between payment for order flow, but was also with the kid that took his own life because of his Robinhood account. Yep. And, they said that they would, and I was a reporter at that time, like covering that shit. And it's like, they said they would, hire this education person and this person and this person. And it's like, I remember I followed up, like, at the time when they said that they would do it. It was like 6, 7, 8 months later. And I'm like, did you do it? I don't see anything online. Did you do it? And then like, they never did it. And it's just like, exactly, like how many companies out there are doing this, like, we're going to do this Band-Aid situation and then never following through. Yeah. But I do think ultimately in our landscape, I think you have the personal finance influencers and then you have the fintech company, and the personal finance influencer is like promoting the fintech company. But there's this like space in the middle that I see like this opportunity gap for fintech to penetrate. Like there's I'm 5.
Are you really laughing because you said penetrate
anyway,
right now?
I'm so sorry. I'm such a weirdo. Anyway, it's early.
The only person more immature than me. I love it.
And then I was like, I wanted to use a different word, but that was the only word that came to mind. and then so there's this like white space for us to I think to fill. And
but will they listen? This is the thing I struggle with, is like, because I think you do a better job of this than me. Like, I'm not, and I mean, I think there's like, it's not that just the two of us can solve this. Like, this is a plea to the world, I think, to like try to fill that gap, to penetrate that opening, and, really get in there. Now anyway, moving on.
So sorry. Okay. I've been watching The Office. I've been watching.
That'll do it.
This is what is happening.
That'll do it. The issue is that the TikTok. So when the Robinhood thing was happening, I think I saw a reel on Instagram that was like, all you got to do, it was like a couple. And I honestly don't know if it was a joke or not. I don't think it was a joke. I think it was serious. And it was basically like, all you'd got to do is get on Robinhood, pick 4 stocks where the name of the company starts in R. And then the end of, if they didn't actually say, I'm joking about that part, but it was along those lines, right? It was like all you got to do is get on, you quadruple trade this in, you got an option that gets you out, you got to buy a put on this and a call on that. And I'm like, I've been studying, not like I have a finance degree, but I've been following, and like I wanted to be an open outcry trader when I was a kid. I couldn't explain options in a basic, simple way, which makes me think I don't really understand them. And the idea that we're going to like allow average Americans to trade options, especially trade options with fucking leverage. With leverage, we're going to allow Americans to trade stocks with leverage. Like we're going to give, I mean, Americans, sure, like that America was built on leverage in a lot of ways, but like the average non-accredited investor, and then everybody's going to be like, well, they should have the right to too. It's like, yeah, okay. Well, then they should also have the right to be fucking homeless and not complain about it when they are, because like you're going to trade yourself into a can, and it's going to be a whole bunch of kids that are going to try to play lacrosse at Duke that are going to, and then they're going to be home. It's just like this very Henry-ish thing, which like, I really don't care if they get screwed, to be honest with you. But it's like, as soon as it gets in, it pervades that like next step of like, oh, I got my paycheck for this week, I'm going to put it in there. And then, oh shit, there goes my livelihood.
There goes my livelihood. Right. And then it just is. And, well, and what a perpetuation of like all that's, kind of bad in the world, right? Because then there's all of this, there's the resentment, like, it's what has made me so very passionate about the fintech space, is like the ability to make that shit not happen anymore. I mean, we have, our ways to go, but it's like, what else is out there? Like, you have to be, I don't know, in my head, I'm like, you got to be optimistic. Like, we got to have some sort we have to have some optimism. I mean, there's a lot of bad shit happening, but if, technology can be enabled for good to change that, then why not? Which really brings me, okay, we've kind of gone in reverse here.
I like
the
it.
show. I love it. Of course,
I backed into the office when we got here, so it all makes sense. I just walked in, they were like, why are you doing that?
I love that this happened with Zach. But I mean, so I guess like, when did the fascination with financial technology begin? Because you had mentioned something about being a kid at some point during the show.
I was a kid at some point.
There was a time where you were a child.
There was a time when I was a child, and I still have the brain of one. It started when I was, so there's 2 answers. When I got interested in money, I was really young, actually. It was because I would say that I didn't grow up with a ton of money. And my dad specifically was in tough economic positions at a couple different points, bankruptcy, things like that. And I just had a lot of questions about like, how anybody could get to that point, how our economic system, I mean, it's just like you, as a kid, you're like, this is a first world country. Like everybody's got water. Everybody's got, you know, the basics, at least for the most part. But like why is that happening? Right. So there's just a lot of questions when I was a kid. And then fast forward to when I was in college, I was doing an internship at, well, I'll just say at Merrill Lynch. And we were mostly doing good for the world. I think like we were selling like mutual funds and like well-balanced index funds to, you know, average folks that were thinking about retirement, yada, yada, yada. And then suddenly we went to lunch with this woman from a very large insurance company, and she was selling us annuities. And the idea was basically like, hey, those index funds, they're great. They're responsible. You can make like, you know, 10 basis points, 30 basis points. But what if we could make 3 times that, 10 times that? What if you can make 3% instead of 30 basis points, right? And not that those are exact numbers or something, but it was just like an order of magnitude difference in terms of the fee that they could benefit from the idea of selling an annuity to literally fucking anybody, right? Instead of selling a balanced index fund portfolio. And this was at a point when, you know, because I'm so old, there was no fiduciary rule. Not the fiduciary rule really shook out and really actually is working today, but they were like the broker dealer thing. This was fully a broker dealer. So there was no need to act on the actual best interest of the client. It was just like, we can sell them something that's, you know, suitable, right? The suitability standard. I thought like the suitability standard to me, I find to be criminal. Like the idea that you can just sell anybody anything basically, and then you get to the courtroom and it's like, I don't know, they like in the moment it seemed good, and the judge is like,
you said yes, so,
yeah, you know, it's basically like it's a sales process at that point with like very minimal recourse. And like, yeah, you can get, but it's just like there's a different level there. So anyways, I got wildly pissed off during that experience, not during that lunch. It was nice I had a salad, but like the rest of it when we started selling the annuities, and I was like, this is not a person you sell an annuity to. And I didn't really know, right? I was just like, but why are we selling an annuity to like a 45-year-old?
It gave you the ick.
Yeah, it gave me the financial ick. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And I was just so angry that I was like, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in this industry and hopefully leave it like a little bit better than I found it. And yeah, that's what started it. And then I started working in startups.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that's actually really fascinating. I mean, and kudos to you, right? Because it's, gosh, we live in this, especially capitalism, America. We live in this like space where you could either think like that person at Merrill Lynch was, which is like, but what if we could earn more? Like, what if we could get more? It's like, it just makes me think of like the creation of the mortgage-backed security. Like, it's like, yeah, but what if?
Yeah, financialization.
We took the shitty ones and put them all together and resold them as something new. And it's like the packaging of you know, shit products to sell it to people that don't know any better. Oh my God. Like, it is also a lot of, I know I can like feel he's like, oh.
It just pisses me off beyond belief.
Well, and it's because it's not fucking necessary.
And it's not real. I mean, the amount of like, it kind of gets into this thing where we start talking about the national debt. It's like, when you start talking about the national debt, I think most people's eyes glaze over. They like, whatever. I mean, if at any point we do default, it's Armageddon and fuck it. You know, like the world's going to end anyway. So whatever. But it's just, when it gets into the financialization of like, we have, coming back to the point of India, coming back to the point of Indonesia, coming back to the point of like actual problems to solve in this world, like the idea of packaging up a whole bunch of mortgages so that we can then call it diversified, so that we can then sell it off. And then obviously that's not enough. Let's package up the packages. Like to your point, you know, it's just,
well, it's like a waste of resources and time and energy of everyone. And there's a lot of fucking smart people in the room.
Super smart.
Why are we, like
super smart.
You're supposed to be the smartest there is. Like, let's do anything else, literally anything else. Like anything but prey on people that don't know any better. Can we do that? Like, can we, and I mean, I know that's also like has, you know, in parts drawn me to the space. I mean, I'm like, I know we're like closing in on time here, but like, I would be remiss if I didn't ask a little bit about Money 2020.
Sure.
I like that job of yours. I mean, when you think about your goals, right, and all the things that you and I are really passionate about is stopping that type of behavior. and using technology in our fintech space to do that, right? And shape a narrative where, hey, we can be good, we can do this, and we can make money. I know we all want to make money. In fact, guess what? Making money and being good, that it can make us more money.
Yeah.
You know, it's I'm like, look at this, and that's how I feel every day. I write my newsletter. I'm just like, beep beep beep. Look at the money that can be made when we are nice to each other.
We can be good and profitable.
And money, yeah. Anyways, but a lot of steps to do that. And there's a lot of different versions of that, from like a virtual signaling standpoint to an actual, the actual like 4-pronged approach to a business development model that actually enables that to happen because they have to be individualized, from, the sustainability to the doing good to the making money. But anyways, I digress. How do you think about that mission when you're like curating content for the big show?
It's a good question. Have I ever given you my big fat Greek wedding reason for being?
No.
Okay. So this is how I phrase this most of the time. And like, got to take it with a grain of salt, right? Because so Money 2020 obviously won Money 2020 US. There is a large team that is doing not a large team, but a team that is doing the programming. So it's not just me, it's also Rachel Morrissey, Kelsey Blair. There's a list of us that are putting it all together. And there's help from Europe. There's help from across basically what I'm saying is not a one-man band, big team. And like, they do the real work. My version of it and my reason is there's a moment in Big Fat Greek Wedding where like the matriarch of the family is talking about kind of the Greek mother, right? Basically saying that she's not the head of the family, she's the neck that turns the head. Ooh. Right? Yeah. And that's the way I think about it. Is like, kind of earlier we were talking about like wanting to be the smartest or wanting to be this or that or whatever. I don't even know if we were recording by that point. But I've always like, I don't know, I kind of want to be Jamie Dimon, I guess, but not really, right? Like I think probably everybody in the industry has like that person or something, like we all want to be that CEO probably, but then like if you put yourself in their shoes, you'd probably not want to be in their shoes very long. And anyway, like the amount of pressure and stress on them is so ridiculous that I don't know if I actually want to do that. But the idea of being able to be the one that is directing that conversation, right? In terms of like, okay, so you're facing, 90 degrees, you should be facing at 180, or you should be facing at 50 or whatever it is. Like, that to me is a huge responsibility that is wildly exciting. And I think with like where I'm at in my career and where my team and the Money 2020 team as a broader thing is like that. I mean, we have a business to run, we have all these other things, but like there are moments while we're programming content where we really separate ourselves from kind of the behemoth. And it really is like okay, if we put this up on stage, like what is the impact on the world, right? And it's not 300 plus speakers, like there's a lot of sessions, like if we did that with every single thing, like I think we can't literally just because of the volume. But that, like, if we can have 10 to 20 pieces of content during the show that are taking the world from a insane focus in this direction to a slight shift in a different direction, like, then I feel like we did our job, right? And if we can come back a year later and there's like, we kind of shifted the parabola or like shifted the direction, shifted the narrative, then we did our job and we can take it a step further. So, I mean, eventually I think I want to not be the neck. I think I want to probably at some point be the head, just so that I can say that I did. But like right now, I think the neck is a great position to be in, and I don't envy a lot of the heads.
Well, I think it's power. It's powerful. Like it is the being the neck is. I mean, and I mean that more in the sense of like the ability to enable change, right? The ability.
It's a responsibility. Yeah. I mean, as much as my job is fun as fun as shit. Like it is not. I don't take it lightly by any means. Like I actually think that this is, I won't share the person, but there was a person recently that joined Money 2020 that works closely with me and had like experienced me on calls and had experienced me at the office and hadn't experienced me in the show. Right. And then I think that there was a perspective that I was I didn't take things seriously, or a
The whole way
perspective.
through.
Yeah,
right?
just a perspective that I was just joking and just being, just kind of carrying on, being.
Zach MC on stage is the same as the guy who's helping put the agenda together.
Yeah, exactly. Just chilling.
I doubt that.
Chilling. And when I get on site, when I'm talking to like you out in public or something like that, right? Like I'm still chill, I'm still like having fun, whatever. But like if I have somewhere to be, or if I have something I need to accomplish, like I am very fucking serious in that moment. And I think I scared the hell out of her, because she was asking me a question at a very specific moment where I needed to be in 3 places. And I'm not one to raise my voice. Like, can you imagine me yelling? Like if I'm not in a fight or
Only
about to
for
murder,
fun.
like
or a joke.
Yeah, a joke, or I'm like actually so pissed that we're about to fight, or like the 2 directions that I will yell. And I didn't like yell, but I was like, if you need me there, tell me you need me there. If you don't, I'm gonna be over here. And she was just like, ah,
She's like not used to that.
Yeah, she's like, who is this guy? He didn't make a joke in that sentence, So yeah, I mean, I think that there is a sense that Money 2020 is a good time. Of course it is. There's a sense that it's time to like have a couple beverages with your friends. 100% it's that. It's like part of the reason I call FinTech Family Hour is because I call Money 2020 a FinTech Family Reunion. Like it's
the biggest there is.
Exactly. But it matters. It's serious, and like people's businesses and lives and livelihoods are like created or shot on it.
Yeah.
So I take it very seriously, but I feel like if I don't have fun creating it and we don't have fun programming it, then like nobody's going to have any fun listening to it or watching it. So.
Right. Well, and then you need that fun and that engagement to be able for people to actually really take it seriously, right?
I think so.
I think that it goes,
ironically.
Exactly. And I think that it goes hand in hand, because it's something. It's like it's just getting people engaged. It's just getting their attention so that you can kind of be like, ooh, and then here's like the real message behind all of it. I mean, I would say maybe like one of my last questions for you would be, before we switch over to FinTech Family Hour, I'm like, this is like FinTech Family 2 hours between both of our shows.
As long as you listen to both.
You have to listen to both. It's a part 1 and 2 thing. But it's thinking, when you're like, it's thinking of that umbrella theme, right? Is like, do you create umbrella themes, for the show? I know you have like, I know like last year there was themes around like that transparency and that vulnerability and being more real. And now,
you remember it? Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Well,
makes me happy.
Oh, good. Well, I mean, I'm a content person, and I pay attention, and I remember seeing that and being like, oh my God, like, fuck yeah. Like that's vulnerability is something that I'm always trying to help.
We fought over that word internally last year.
I bet.
Like that was a word that I was very... Rachel Morrissey and I actually both, who is the head of content.
Yeah.
We were both very set on, and there was a lot of internal, because I mean, it's Money 2020. Like, I think people forget sometimes that it is owned by a publicly traded company, and it is a large enough thing now that we have to be careful about taking certain risks, and we pick our battles. And there were some folks internally that were like, the idea of admitting openly that the financial system is in a vulnerable place may lead to, and I'm like, what? Like, may lead to what? Like
innovation, change?
Like may lead to honesty, may lead to like what the like what's the worst case scenario? And they're like, I don't know. It's like, okay. So, I mean, actually and I get the reasoning, right? Like the idea, I get it. And especially coming from a perspective of somebody that maybe doesn't think of vulnerability in the way that you and I do, I get that. But yeah, we fought about that a lot. Yeah. So you're asking about what are this year's, or like what are the focus for this year?
Sure. Yeah. But and just kind of and like the thought process around like picking it, I guess.
Yeah. So I kind of can't believe you asked this question, because it's something, so it's a really interesting question to me that I don't know if it's interesting to other people, but you asked it, so I guess so. So
as a concept.
Yeah. I hope that this is like the TAM of this question is semi-broad. I guess like people are so fascinated by how to get selected for Money 2020 that I guess maybe this is interesting. So there is a very strong desire from everybody in the world for us to do what are considered conference themes, quote unquote, right? 1, we don't think of ourselves as a conference.
Right.
2, fuck a theme.
Yeah.
Like, I am so sick of the idea of themes. Like, I when I joined Money 2020, went back and started asking old friends, like, hey, do you remember any of the old themes? Do you remember, like, I had gone to Money 2020 4 years before joining, like, as an attendee. I couldn't tell you a single theme. Like, I don't know. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Right? It's like a filter on, it's basically, for me, it's like you're telling these comms teams at these large organizations what you want to hear, and then they parrot it back to you. So if all you say is this year's AI, this year's fraud, this year's banking, and this, you know, just like hit on them, it's like, one, what are you paying me for?
Right.
Like, anybody could say that.
Well, and I think it actually, you know, segments the content into some weird box and makes people think like, okay, well, you know what, I'm not, you know, interested in inclusion, so I'm only going to go here. But what if instead you like experienced
so the listeners can't see what you just did with your hands, but actually what you just did with your hands is wildly important.
Right.
It is horizontal. Yeah. Right. So think it like AI as an example. So many times this year, people are like, where's the AI track? And I'm like, we don't have tracks. Where's the AI, you know, where's the AI? And I'm like, yeah, because like we want it to be interesting and leveled and nuanced and like layered, not leveled. But the idea that we're just going to have an AI track and that's where you go for AI stuff, when one of the most groundbreaking piece of technology that we have seen in our lifetimes that is moving faster than we have seen any other technology move in our lifetime, maybe ever. Like, Moore's law looks like a bitch right now. Like, this is insane. So yeah, maybe we'll have a few pieces of content on it, but it is horizontal. It's across the whole show, right? So this, and people are like, where's the AI stuff? And I'm like, fucking tell me your story. Yeah. And if AI is a piece of it, great. Yeah. Right. So we've taken it like, I don't like the idea of a buzzword, the idea of a theme, like all that to me is just like uncreative.
Yeah. Well, it's like frankly kind of lame, right? Yeah. It's doing what all the other events and conferences do. And if you're not, you're like and it's when I had Scarlett on, you know, and Tracy, Scarlett was saying how a lot of what she was saying to me is, well, one, she was saying how like you guys try to really like test things out, like test like little shit here and there and like see where, you know, things go, and like having kind of little moments to do like crazy risks is like an important way to do it. But also just like, why shouldn't someone that isn't, you know, that maybe you're an AI professional, but you, like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to actually like learn about something else, or there's nothing wrong with, you know, okay, yes, you're in marketing and I get that. Maybe you want that weird track thing, but you should be like looking into other areas. Like there's nothing wrong with expanding. I'm doing the horizontal thing again. Yes. Expanding the way, the content that you consume, not to mention like maybe actually going to the sessions, like, and showing up to the sessions. And I understand that like networking is important too, but like, a lot of good shit is said in that stuff. And I mean, I guess an advantage to me, I get to go to those sessions and write about them and then, you know, update people on what happened because they maybe didn't go. And, but anyways.
I mean, you were my only good audience member in Europe. So
I understand.
You were the only one listening. You were the only one, like, I think you clapped, you laughed.
I did.
I mean, it was wild. It was, you engaged.
You did a great job. You sang and everything.
I mean, I do what I can, but they're European, so
they're Europeans are tough. Same. When I moderated my session, I like pulled a couple jokes. The photos are great because me and my panelists are like we're having a great time. There's like a photo of all of us like, you know, laughing. And but did the audience have that same reaction? Maybe in the inside, internally.
And all the photos are just me being like, laugh, laugh.
For the love of God, please laugh at my stand-up show.
And Anton's like, stop recording.
Okay, fine. Last question. All right, I ask all my guests this. If we need to be the change we wish to see, what change do you wish to see in fintech and how do you embody it?
Stop taking yourself so seriously, have some fun, and worry less about what you say. And I embody it by having no damn filter and trying to get everybody else to have some fucking fun.
The fastest response of this entire show. Amazing. He was like, I know exactly. Some people like mull over that for a minute. And like, but you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing. And I know
second and third answer is always worse than my first. So I just say whatever the fuck comes into my head and it tends to work out.
Best thing you could do. Zach, thank you so much for joining me on Humans of FinTech. This has been such a blast.
It's been a wonderful time. Now over to the next.
All right, now over to the next. Go to FinTech Family Hour. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. To hear our next story from another diverse leader, be sure to tune in next week. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our show and give it a 5-star rating, as it helps our message reach more people who want to find belonging too. Thanks for tuning in.